You guys just learned about our model a little bit. One of the things I love about Calo, one of the things that's really exciting, is that model is pervasive throughout the entire Calo community. That model is not just something that's trained to the fit therapist that takes place in some back office where nobody knows exactly what's going on. 6 years ago when I came out here and we started talking about developing a rec therapy program, that model was shared with me, and it was, okay, we need to create a program that utilizes that model and that model exists within the program. Because each one of the departments, whether it's academics, canine, rec therapy, it all needs to embrace that model and use those concepts of trust of care, trust of control, trust of self. Our goal for everyone is to create that interdependence. And so as we started talking about that and thinking about that, we realized that, a lot of our students are very resistant to that confrontational approach. It creates stress, it creates anxiety, and so as you sit down with a student, you say, hey, let's talk about your relationship with your parents. What, it's fine, there's no problem. Well, yesterday you were talking about your mom in some words that I can't repeat and different things like that, and that confrontational approach doesn't work. And so what I love about rec therapy is it's this experiential opportunity that kind of gets to some of those major issues through the back door, and where they're not totally recognizing it. I'll share a story I had once with a girl that was here that was really quite powerful. As I was teaching her to water ski, she was one of those girls that didn't need anyone. I mean, she was out looking for her island where she was going to be happy the rest of her life. And I was teaching her to wakeboard out on the lake, and first step one is to put the wakeboard on your feet. And she was very resistant to any help. I kept watching her struggle, and I'd reach out, no, leave me alone, I've got this. And she kept putting it on. I said, well, your turn is almost over, and you don't have the board on yet, let me help you. And she got so frustrated, she grabbed the board and swung it at me. Hit me in the foot, cut my foot open. I'm standing there on the boat bleeding everywhere. I'm like, okay, you want this experience, it's all yours. And so I kind of backed off and stopped the bleeding. Her turn was over. The next day, we went out and repeated something similar, but I kept my distance. For 3 days, she couldn't get the wakeboard on her foot. And finally, she's flailing out in the water. She tried in the boat, she tried in the water, she tried everywhere. And finally, she just collapses in the water and looks at me, and she's almost in tears. She's like, fine, you can help me. So with a little bit of soap on her foot and a couple of other things, we're able to get this board on her foot relatively quickly. And that experience right there started creating this relationship of trust. That in and of itself, okay, the board's on my foot. Okay, fine, how do I get up? So I show her the position that she needs to get up and hold the rope like this, and it's about standing up, and then you got to turn your hips. And she really started to listen to me and became a fantastic wakeboarder over the summer. I mean, she was up and riding and crossing the wake and doing some really good things. And it just started to generate this relationship between the two of us where she trusted that if I was going to give her directions and she were to follow them, she'd find success in that opportunity. It carried over into another sequence that we did, which was a rock climbing sequence. We trained the kids on how to rock climb, and we'd start out here on this climbing wall that you guys will see as you're touring Calo. And we kind of had this fun game. I'd set up the rock routes, and whoever was able to get to the top of it first got to name the route. There's a really tricky route out there that all the boys kept trying to climb, but it was very technical. Unless you did very specific moves on your way up, you weren't going to get up to the top. And they'd tried, and they'd fallen, and they'd failed. And she comes up to me one day, and she says, hey, will you teach me how to get to the top? I said, what do you mean? You know how to get to the top. Tell me what to do. So I taught her all this language, and she's there, and I'm saying, all right, you're going to need to do this Gaston here and a heel hook here, and I'm using all this language she's following. And she gets to the top, and all the boys are just like, oh, my gosh. So she got to name the route. So for that year, we had the Funky Monkey. It was the hardest route on the wall, and she named it herself. And it created this experience that it was really powerful. Hey, Caleb, if you tell me how to get up there, I know I can get to the top. And that is the power of the recreational therapy program and how it fits into our model. Yeah, we're teaching these kids a lot of skills and fun activities. They're getting ready right now for a 100-mile bike ride. All right, and it's going to teach them teamwork. We teach communication through wakeboarding and water skiing. We teach about trust by fly fishing. And that's a really interesting experience. And so while they're learning all of these skills and activities, what's really going on is under the surface, they're learning about relationships. They're learning how to connect. They're reaching out and wanting that trust of control, and they're learning how to have those interdependent reciprocal relationships. And within those activities, there's so much give and take as you teach, and then they take all of that and they teach someone else, and it kind of spreads and becomes this really powerful experience. So on the surface, we're doing all these great activities from, water skiing and wakeboarding, rock climbing, and deep down they're really internalizing these concepts about relationships and what it takes and how they can grow interdependently. And it's a powerful example of how the confrontational approach doesn't work. And it's not, no, you're going to learn how to water ski, otherwise you can't get to level 4. But as they learn to water ski, they learn to really connect and have these powerful relationships.
Great.